Today's Midday Kentucky Cooking segment brought to you by Creative Kitchen and Bath, where you will always cook in style.
And welcome back. Chef Allison Davis here in the Wild Thyme Kitchen, and we are cooking up some fish. I am working with a tilapia fillet today, and I wanted to show that it's healthy, it's low carb, but it doesn't have to lack flavor. So I'm going to do a pan-seared blackened fish, which is pretty popular in the South, and if you know anything about me, you know that I love spicy food, and I love to add a little kick into pretty much everything, but in this case we're going to do a blackened rub. So I've got some spices that we're going to add in, and we're going to make our own spice rub, which is very easy to do, starting with our heat, which is cayenne. So I've got a little cayenne pepper. I'm going to add in some paprika. Now I want to be really clear about my favorite ingredient in the world, and that is smoked Spanish paprika. If you have not tried this or just even smelled this spice, it is my favorite thing ever. It just is sweet. It doesn't add heat, but it adds this smoky layer and complexity to dishes. I use it on vegetables. I use it on meats. I absolutely love this spice. So Spanish smoked paprika over just regular sweet paprika. And then we're going to go in with some dried thyme. We're going to add a little bit of celery seed, or in this case I've got some celery salt. And then I've got onion and garlic powder, of course, a must in our rub. And then some dried oregano. All right, and then all we're going to do is add just a little salt and pepper into this. I've got some salt. And I'm going to go in with just some cracked black pepper, just because I like the texture of that, especially on the fish fillet. Now, in preparing our fish, I patted these nice and dry, because if we are going to sear these in a pan, we want to make sure that they're not super wet. So these have been patted dry and help to remove a little bit of the moisture off of the top. All right, now our rub is good, so I'm just going to take our rub on our fish and just sprinkle it all over the top, and then you want to really kind of pat it into the fish, okay? And then we've got our pan working. So while I've been making this rub and kind of working with the fish, I've been heating up our pan so that we have a really nice hot pan, but I haven't added the oil into it. Now you could go with vegetable oil or grapeseed oil. I'm going to go with canola oil, or I'm not sorry, coconut oil in this one, just because I like the little bit of mild like sweetness that it brings with the fish, and also how that will kind of cool and work really well with the blackened seasoning. So we're just going to take this and kind of coat the bottom of the pan. Again, our pan and our skillet is really nice and hot. So we're going to take the excess of our rub, and then we're going to take our fish and just lay it in. Now when I lay my fish in, or anything that I'm pan searing, I always try to lay away, and that way if it does splatter, it's going to splatter my cameraman and not me, right? All right, and then lastly we're going to go back over the top with a little bit more of that rub, and we're just going to let this sit and sear. I'm going to pat it in with my spoon there, because I'm not going to get my hand that close to that oil. And we're just going to let that sit and sear. So what a lot of people like to do is they like to try to flip it too soon, and that's usually where you end up with the problem. If you try to flip it too soon before you've gotten a nice sear against the pan, then that's when your fish tends to stick and doesn't want to come up from the pan. If you let it sear, the sear, or the crust, is what usually becomes that barrier and that separation between the pan and the actual fish fillet itself. All right, so we have our high heat. We're letting that cook and just letting that kind of crisp up. And in about another, say, 30 seconds, we'll flip this. And this is going to be great. Again, this is like a 5-minute dinner, 5-minute fish fillet, and you could have this with some roasted broccoli out of the oven. You could, in turn, throw some potatoes into this and have this with some potatoes. If you're going low carb, I mean, even like just some fresh cabbage, you know, mixed in with this would be great. So we'll see where we're at on this guy. Go ahead and flip. This is a fish spatula too. I wanted to kind of let you know what tool I'm using. This fish spatula has a nice thin lip, so it can get up underneath the fish, and you notice the length of it is a little bit longer. This will allow you to get underneath that fish fillet without, damaging it or, causing it to get weak in the center when you flip it. So we'll flip this other one, and I'll show you guys the finished product here in just a minute. And you know where to find this recipe. You can go to Midday Kentucky /recipes tab, and you're watching Midday, of course. I'm Chef Allison Davis. You can find me on Instagram at Chef Allison Davis. We'll be right back after this short break.